If I do think about my most favorite SOG knives ever, the Sog Spec Arc is definitely one of them. Hey guys, welcome to this video. I do this mainly because this knife deserves a lot more recognition than it got. Sadly, this is already discontinued by now. You can still find them out there, but they will no longer produce it as far as I know. And yeah, several reasons for that. The Sog Spec Arc was released in a time where Sog was really bad, like 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago from now. I don't even remember. So, as you know, Sog was not that great, and a lot of Sog knives, because they were so bad, this knife kind of floated under the radar. Nobody really gave it a chance. It doesn't look like a very high quality knife at first. As you can see, we have the Sog logo branded all over the knife, which looks a little bit cheap. And also at the price point that it came in, with VG10 and FRN handle scales, people were not really interested. People expected, a little bit more higher quality, quote, steel and materials. So I don't know, this really didn't get the recognition that it deserved, but it's such a great knife. It's just a hard use, low maintenance tool, and one of my most favorite things about this knife is that it doesn't really look like a knife for knife people. It doesn't feel and doesn't look like that. It's just a tool, and I use it as such. I don't think too much about it. I don't care too much about it. Don't really maintain it properly. As you can see, the blade centering is still spot on. More than a year ago now, since I have this knife, there is no wobbling inside. Mine is really dirty. Maybe you can see the gunk and the dust on the tang of the blade. It's also really dusty inside. And look at the action of this knife. It runs completely smooth. There is no grit that I can feel. Even though it has nylon washers or silicone washers, you don't really feel that. It doesn't feel gunked up. So I do never adjust the pivot really. I do not maintain it properly. Like I said, I just wash it with water if it gets really dirty, and that's it. And this knife just runs fine. Like I said, it didn't have the best price to performance ratio. Like this came in at 120, 130 euros. I think the prices now went up to like 160, 170, which is a little bit much, I have to say, but sometimes it's just good to have a good old-fashioned VG10 stainless steel work knife. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. People are really picky these days when it comes to steels. I have to say, I'm a steel nerd as well. I do like myself some good Rex 45 or some K390. I don't know. Some of the powdered steels are really great, but the non-powdered steels don't get the recognition anymore that they deserve. And this VG10 is not really, I guess it is comparable to other VG10s, but it's not the same. If you compare it, for instance, to Spyderco's VG10, Spyderco Enduro is also a great size comparison. Spyderco's VG10 is way softer. This is like 59 to 60 HRC on the Sog knife here. So it does have more edge retention. The edge also doesn't chip as quickly in my experience. Obviously, we have to consider that we have totally different blade geometries. We have a low hollow grind with a wide shoulder, 3.3 millimeters on the blade stock, and 0.4 millimeters or 16 thousandths behind the edge. It's not too thin for considering the blade thinness, but I think it works as a work knife. I really do not have any concerns because as it performs, I do really like it. And with the hollow grind, we get a little bit more thinness as we resharpen it. On the Endura, on the other hand, we have a full flat ground blade with a little bit thinner cutting geometry. But almost the same, also about 16 thousandths behind the edge, I think, on the Endura. Not really sure. But yeah, this just has more edge retention, especially if you sharpen it up with diamond stones. With diamond rod, I should actually say, because you can't really use stones. We'll get to that in a second. you get a lot more edge retention. So if you do, for example, a rope cut test and compare the Endura against this one, like I said, the geometries are not really comparable, but I did it anyways. But this knife cuts 200 or 300, I think 200 to 300 times more than an Endura, which is significant, I would say. Also, the razor sharpness lasts way longer than on any VG10 I have tried so far, and it lasts longer than most powdered steels. But that's very common, you know. Non-powdered steels usually can hold their razor sharpness longer than their overall sharpness. So it doesn't outperform powdered steels, but it has a better razor sharpness, better ability to hold the razor sharpness. And Sog knives have always been good with the heat treatment. Also on their newer stuff, this is the Terminus. This was released when they kind of rebranded the whole Sog brand. They kind of reintroduced new designs and the quality went up, which I do really enjoy that they had a comeback. I think this was one of the best comebacks in knife history ever to this day. But and the heat treatment also on their newer steels, on the D2, the Cryo D2 is really good. And it also was good on this VG10, even though Sog was not a good company at that time. This knife was very excellent. And what I also like about this is this looks exactly, or not exactly, but it looks very similar to Sog Spec Elite, which was one of my most favorite Sog knives also. The Sog Spec Elite, the Sog Visionary, those were really good Sog knives before Sog got really bad. And also had a VG10 made in Seiki City, Japan blade, the Sog Spec Elite, and also had an FRN scale a little bit different done. I like the handle scales on the old ones a little bit better. But this one works, even though it looks a little bit stupid at first, but it actually works very well in practical use. Difference to this one is that it has a deep carry pocket clip as opposed to the normal clip that the Spec Elite had. And if you look closely, the Terminus, one of their more recent designs, has the same clip, but as you can see, if I flip it over, the issue on the Terminus is, and this is not something a lot of people really talk about, the issue on this knife is that your pants can slip up here and then get trapped in here, and it's a little bit hard to get the knife out of the pocket again. And this also happens with thicker pants, so I don't know. This is a little bit of an issue on this knife, whereas on the Spec Elite, like they did it in the past, they just widened the handle at the end, and your pants can only go up to here and then they stop, so you don't have that issue at all, which I do like a lot. Also, I have to say, I do like the designing on the old Sog's knives a little bit better, and this is still in that same kind of way, and it has the same flows and the same lines that the old Sog knives had, with that nice recurve blade. Some people really don't like recurves because of the resharpening, but if you have a diamond rod, it's really not a problem, or any sharpening rod, I guess. Also, you can maintain it pretty easily. It's just VG10. You can maintain it easily with a triangle sharpener. I do think VG10 is a very good work steel because it's easy to maintain, and I think for a wider audience, it's even better than some of the powdered steels, to be honest. But that's just my opinion. The recurve blade gives you a lot of power in your cutting. It just drags material into there. It's a really, really good cutter, even though it's not the thinnest behind the edge. It has the best geometry on the hollow grind, but it does cut really, really well, I have to say. And we have a nice precise tip supported by a long swedge. You can see that here. Man, is there anything more beautiful than a nice and long swedge on a knife? I do really like myself some nice and long swedges. I show you the cross section here. Maybe I can show you the hollow grind. You can see it's not the deepest hollow grind, but it is decently well done. So we have a lot of stability in the tip, but also a lot of preciseness if you look at it like that. Wide shoulders. It's not really a pry knife or something like that. Wouldn't really use it for that. This knife is really strong in their up and down strength, not so strong side to side, but as long as you use it as a knife is supposed to be used, there is really not an issue. And the Omega springs that are inside here, this knife obviously runs on the arc lock system. which relies on 2 omega springs similar to an axis lock, but the difference is that you pull upwards at an angle like this as opposed to straight back. Their newer locking system, the XR lock, is very similar to an axis lock where you just pull straight back. And also on the axis lock on the XR lock, if you pull straight back and you close it slowly, then you feel the resistance between the springs and the tang of the blade right at this point. I mean, if you close it, if you pull back the bar completely, you can close it like that. But if you close it slowly, you will feel the resistance to the springs, which is on the arc lock, you don't have that. It's one smooth motion basically. If you close it slowly, there is no resistance between the springs, which might be, I don't know, this is just my theory, but I have never seen omega springs on an arc lock break. That's just my experience, I have to say though. And I saw a lot of omega springs broken on axis lock systems. Maybe that's the reason, because there is no resistance. You don't have to force the blade against the springs. I don't know. I do think the arc lock is a really solid locking system. It's a little bit complicated if you disassemble it, but like I said, I don't really disassemble it really often. I did it once or twice for a video and that was it. Don't really clean this ever, and it's never been a problem so far. But yeah, I have to give credit to the XR lock. The XR lock is a little bit more simple in disassembling it and maintaining it, I would say. And also you have a better detent. I mean, there is no detent ball, but the blade holds itself inside the handle, can't really shake that out. On Benchmates and also on the Sog Spec Arc, you can shake that blade out pretty easily. Some people like that because they can open it like this. I don't really do like that too much, but also this knife, I have to say, this knife never opened up inside my pocket. So yeah, the FRN scales are done really well. I do like this FRN way more than some of the other FRNs on the market, like Spyderco's FRN or Ontario's FRN. I do even like this better than Cold Steel's FRN. I do think it feels really good. I think it even feels better than some of the cheaper G10s that are out there, like CVV G10. This handle material feels way better. So it's also 3D contour. It's very comfortable in hand. I was worried at first that this cutout right here would be an ergonomic issue, but it's really not. And I also have never slipped up on the blade. There is this chimping done right here. I wouldn't say this is like a tactical knife per se. I mean, you could use it for that. We have a long blade that's very pointy and a very slashy grind also, maybe. I don't know. But you could use it for that, but I do see it more as a work knife. I do have to say though, if you do use it for stabbing, it does stab very well. So it could be used in a pinch. Like I said, it's not how I see this knife. I see this more as a hard use work knife, like a very reliable, just easy maintenance user basically. Yeah. Also, I want to say that if you I once accidentally cut myself with this knife. I didn't run into the edge when doing something. I was really stupid. I held the knife like this and then I went up with my finger and cut myself. So this was basically not the knife's fault, it was a user error. And when I did that, I was working on something and I had to decide whether I would go back to the house and grab some bandages and grab some bandages and fix up my finger, but or if I would just continue working. So I decided to continue working and finish the job first. And by the end I was done. The complete handle was covered in blood and I really never slipped off, even though it was completely covered in blood. And also, if this handle is completely wet, you don't really slip off, even though there is no guard really. And also a positive thing about that no guard in the front here is that you can get up really close to the cutting edge and you get a lot of control over that long blade, which is really nice. I do like that quite a bit, that you can get up so close, put your thumb on this cutout right here, get a lot of, transfer a lot of energy into your cut, which is, like I said, it's a really powerful cutter. It's really underrated. Sadly, this knife is gone now. And yeah, I do like this design so much more than the new Sog knives. I do have to say though, I do like that Sog knives have had that comeback and they do good stuff now again. But man, you can't just beat this designing. I think the old Sog design language was way better. Looked way more beautiful, in my opinion, at least. But to each his own, I guess. So yeah, I just wanted to do this video to give this knife credit. It's not like a super nice food slicer or anything. I mean, you can do it if you have to, but with the hollow grind and how the shoulder is done, it's really a work knife. It eats through cardboard really well. It cuts wood really good. Everything you need to do, basically, for everything you expect out of a work knife, this knife can do it. And I don't know, as long as you use it as a knife, it holds up great in my experience so far. So yeah, hope you guys like this video. Like I said, this knife deserves way more credit. Yeah. What else? What I wanted to say? I don't know. I wish you guys a nice rest of your weekend, and goodbye, people.